This conference will now be recorded.
Alright. So let's discuss about association, okay, aggregation and composition. Okay, composition. So these are the three terms like so we must be come across as part of academics, but definitely we may forget again. So what do you know about these association? It's a general term, right? Association, a generic term, right? So association is a kind of right. Uh, it forms a relation, right, between different things, different entities. Okay, right. So basically, you can say a group, right? Association is a group of things. You can say association. When I say association, the group of things, right? So I can say, I can say I have two entities. Okay, I have two entities. So here one is employee. Okay, one is employee. The other one is department. The other one is department. If I consider these two entities, okay, these are two separate entities because like employees like one category, department is another category, right? Because department has its own properties, department ID, department name, department location, okay, department head, who is the department head, etc., etc. There are its own specific characteristics. When you look at employee has its own set of characteristics, employee ID, employee salary, date of joining, etc., etc., right? And when you look at closely, so somehow this employee may relate with the department, right? When you look at any organization, right? When you look at any organization, so we may have multiple employees, right? So might be 100 employees, 1,000 employees, or lakhs of employees. And when I have multiple employees, I will be having different departments. Definitely, I might be having different departments. Okay, so IT department, admin department, HR department, etc., etc., right? So we'll be having different departments as well. So we have multiple employees and we have multiple departments, right? So there is a relation between the employee and the department. So if you look at a particular employee, definitely that employee must be part of a particular department in the organization, right? That's for sure, right? So when you look at organization level, when you look at organization level, so organization has employees and departments, and every employee must be belongs to so and so department, right? So meaning that employee is related to department. Department is associated by employees. Department is a kind of association where it has employees, group of employees, right? So this employee is one entity and department is another entity. Both are different entities, and these two entities are connected because the employee belongs to so and so department, which department he belongs to. So these two are connected. So I can say these two are associated. These two are associated. So how these two are associated? How these two are associated? So there we have different levels. Okay, we have a kind of associations. Okay, so here if you look at one department, how many employees will be there in one particular department, right? So there can be any number of employees. There could be 10 employees belongs to one department. There could be 100 employees belongs to the same department, 1,000 employees to the belongs to the same department. So multiple employees, this is what multiple employees, so you can say many employees belongs to one particular department. Many employees belongs to one particular department. Can I say that or not? So this kind of association is what many to one. If you look at in this direction, employee to department, so this is many to one association. This is what many to one association. If you look the same in this direction, this is going to be like department to employee. One department can have multiple employees. That association is what one to many. So this is a reverse direction. This is in this particular direction. Okay, this particular direction. So it depends on the direction that you are looking. Okay, so you can say many to one or one to many. This association is like one to one or one to many, right? So in the similar way, like there are entities where they have associated with one with the other in one to one case, meaning that one to one. This is one to many what we have seen, right? In the similar way, we have okay, this what one to many or many to one, whatever it is, depends on the direction. Okay, then we have something called one to one. We have something called one to one. In the similar way, we will be having another association like many to many. So in both the entities, like here also there are multiple employees, and here also like multiple employees, multiple so multiple things basically, multiple okay, multiple things, many things. So any example that we can relate for many to many. So you can see the same thing here. Okay, basic example I'll take. Okay, institution or college or whatever. So an institution and okay, and you have in the institution you will be having different courses, right? You will be having different students, right? So okay, so one institution or one college. Okay, so one institute can have institute two. Okay, institution two courses. What relation that I can establish for institution to course? So in one institute, we can have a number of courses, right? So we have many number of courses. We can establish the relation of what? One to many for this, right? So many to one is like if you look at the direction in other way, so then you can say many to one. Now many to many one scenario, if you look at one course, okay, can have multiple students. Yes or no? One course can have multiple students or multiple students. Okay, in one course they can have multiple students, and one student can join multiple courses. Yes or no? One course for the same course. Okay, so n number of students can join the same course to the same course or one course. This is a relation of what? This is a relation of what? One course to multiple students. This is one to many. And if you look at in the reverse direction, in the other direction, student to courses. So one student can join for multiple courses. Yes or no? One student can join. One student can join multiple courses. Multiple courses. So in the reverse also, like we can see many. So many students can join many courses, right? Many courses like multiple courses has multiple students. So this kind of scenario, like so this is what many to many. We can say an example of many to many, many to many. Okay, so whatever it is. So this is at a high level, and when we look at association describes the relation between two or more entities. Simple in simple words. Okay, in our own words. If you put in our own words, an association is just a relation between okay uh, two or more entities, and this aggregation and composition are going to speak about how tight the relation is, how strong the relation is. Okay, so if the relation is a weak relation, then we can say that is a aggregation. If the relation is a weak relation, okay, if this is a weak relation, then you can say this is aggregation. But if the relation is a strong relation, the relation is strong, then you can say strong relation. Then you can say this is what composition. You can say that is a composition. Okay, so it depends on the relation. It's going to describe whether it is aggregation or composition. So here in Java, we have a concept of has a relationship. Okay, has a relationship which talks about the aggregation, not the composition. Can be, it could be composition as well, but high level it's a aggregation. Basically, it need not to be strong to say it is related and it has a relationship. To say that both the entities must not be in strong relation, but they could be in strong relation also. Okay, so basically it's at a high level you can say association. Simply association has a relationship. Is nothing but what association. Okay, so meaning that like department has an employee. Okay, department has an employee. That's what it is going to describe the relation. Okay, so just I'm thinking, okay, it's a recap for you guys. You must be aware of this. Okay, so if not, hope you understand this. Is that clear? Okay, is it clear for you? Ping in the chat box. So can you guys give me an example of aggregation and composition then? So some example for a weak relation and example for a strong relation. An example of weak relation. Can you give me an example for aggregation? Aggregation. Okay, so give me some example for aggregation. Also, give me one example for composition. Ping me in the chat box. Composition. Any examples? Any examples? No? An example of aggregation? No? You can tell anything, right? Whatever is two different classes like employer and employee. Employer is an organization, right? So employee is an employee of that. So can I have an organization without employees? So how do you define like how do you differentiate like it's a relation is a weak relation or strong relation? So to say that the relation is weak relation, so the two entities could be independent. Okay, without existence of one thing, so the other thing can exist. Then you can say that is what aggregation. The relation is weak relation. When you are speaking about two things, okay, two things, okay, one code exists independently. One could exist independent. Okay, without with or without existence of the other. Okay, the relation. Got it? So when you look at employer and employee, so can I just think of it like without employees, so without employees, can the organization exist? Is it possible? Then you can say, if you think that's possible, then you can say that's aggregation. Any other example? Any other example? No, Aditya. Any other examples? Okay, can I say simple example? Uh, home and school, teacher and student. Okay, so faculty and students. Okay, faculty and student. Uh, yes. So, but both are related. I mean, so are we going to use faculty as part of student entity, or faculty as part of student entity? The thing is, like, while if you want to define, it should be like uh, it should be defined in both the entities. Okay, let me write a class here. New class, new class. Let me take student as use. Home and school. How you are going to differentiate, Aditya? Okay, I'll write that also. Okay, student, and the other one is what? Uh, faculty. Okay, trainer or faculty. So well, if you wanted to associate these two entities, so how it is going to, like, we are going to use either student as part of trainer, or trainer as part of student. Okay, so like faculty. So are we going to use that? So now I can say trainer has a student, trainer has a student, or trainer has students. So this is what has a relationship. Trainer and students are related. So you are going to relate something like this. When I say has a relationship, you are going to associate something like this. You are going to associate something like this. Then you can say, okay, these are associated. Now, what kind of association it is? So my trainer, can my trainer exist without existence of student? Then you can say yes, it is aggregation. If no, uh, so my trainer cannot exist without having student, then you cannot say that is not aggregation, and it is composition. Okay, so little confusing things, right? Okay, let me give one example where you can I say computer, because I can see that computer here, or you can say mobile. Okay, and house and householding things. Take house and householding things. Okay, in house, like, there could be many mandatory things, many optional things. So if you feel that it is optional, then that is what, that relation is aggregation. If you feel that that is compulsory, that then the relation is what, then the relation is what, composition. That's simple. So let me take an example of simple. uh, Let me take an example of a person. Simple example. or laptop, you take anything, no problem. So person so has many things, right? So when you are looking at person, okay, so person will be having address, okay. So I can define another class called address, because address has multiple things, okay, because address has multiple things, okay. This is separate entity, so because I can define my address class, and here I can have other details, string, okay, plot details are like string building name, okay, so string building name, and int plot number, right. So string landmark, and then so I have more string landmark, string, okay, say maybe area, string, okay, location code basically, or you can say pin code, you can say string, city name, string state name, string country name, right. So if you look at this, address is not a small independent value, a single, not a single value, it's a combination of these many things. So what I can do while programming, I will group all these things into a single entity, which is what called address, okay. And of course all further code will be there, where maybe you will see setters and getters and all other stuff. For now let me not generate, I'll just add a comment here, setters and getters and constructor, other stuff goes here, okay, other stuff goes here. Now so if I look at person has address or not, person will be having address or not, of course. So every person has some address, it's a kind of compulsory thing, right? So every person should have some address. So can I say this is an example of composition or not? Because because so every person must be having certain address, so there should be no person without address, okay. So this is a compulsory thing, so person and address. So can I say an example of uh, composition, person must be having what, address, person must be having what, address. In a similar way, so assume that I have some another example of, okay, another example of a person with phone number, okay, or email ID, okay. So I'm just considering that an example of person email, okay, person email. So something like I'm going to define some class, something called person email, person email. So this is what my class, okay. So why I'm taking this as a separate thing, maybe email has some other code, so I have some logic on emails, okay. So string email, okay. So boolean property, okay, is office email or personal email, so something like that I'm going to track. And other email properties depends on the requirement, will define it. And then constructors goes here, and then, okay, then constructors goes here, and then you can say setters and getters. You can take any example here, a number of things which is optional, okay. So for example, I have some other class policy, okay, insurance policy, okay. So here all policy details goes, okay. So policy number, okay, policy number, policy name, etc, etc, okay, goes all setters and get all setters and getters. Other properties and setters and getters, setters and getters. Okay, it goes, all other properties goes here. This is what my class. Okay, so say for example insurance policy or personal email. So if you look at a person, is that something like every person has a email id? Every person has email id? Is it compulsory to have every person a email id? It may or may not, right? Doesn't require. Like if I go to my village, so I see a number of people who doesn't know like what is email. Okay, the persons, so they don't know what is this. They do they require, like, do they have email id? No, they don't have. And when you look at a person, an insurance policy, if I associate these two things, so is everyone has a policy? Is it compulsory? It's all optional, right? It depends on the person. It depends on the person, may or may not have the policy. So you can take this example person with address as a composition. You can take an example of person with policy, person with the policy. So is an optional. Okay, every person may or may not have a policy, and a policy may not need not to be associated with this. Okay, so this person entity can exist independently irrespective of the policy. A person can exist independently irrespective of the policy. Is that clear? This is what aggregation. So as one entity can exist independently without existence of other thing, okay, then we can say that is aggregation. Association is aggregation. When you say one entity cannot exist without existing of other dependent entity, then you can say that is composition. Okay, a library with books, another simple example. Okay, library with books. So without books, so can we say that's a library? No. Without existence of books, so there is no point of saying it is a library. Library cannot exist without books, right? So that is an example of composition. Okay, okay, your home appliances, your home and home appliances. Okay, so AC, is that compulsory for every home? No, right? So it's like it's all dependent. It's all depends. Okay, so that is what aggregation and composition, uh, which are like two things as part of association. Okay, if the association is a strong association, then we say it is a composition, and the association is weak association, then we say it is a aggregation. So are you clear with this, or still you have any confusion around this? Okay, let's see an example now. Okay, so person has addresses and personal email, insurance policy and all. Okay, now I'll just go with this person with address for now. Okay, so person with address. So here, as person has other properties also in the, okay, person maybe SSN number or maybe other number or whatever. So okay, so here it is other number, person other number. You can take other properties of person things. Okay, person name. Okay, age, person's age. Okay, so does he has vote eligible for vote? Some properties, like whatever you want to define, you can define more properties. You can define more properties also. That's all, depends on the requirement. Now along with that, I have address. Okay, so I can define all these things here itself, right? Why do I need to define this as a separate component? That is the question here. Okay, that is the question here. So why don't you have all this here? Why do you need something like this? Have all the properties here like this. And what is the problem? No problem, guys. Okay, no problem. So you can define it if you want. You can define something like this, and you can define setters and getters, everything you can do, no issues. But Okay, but it's all about the number of properties. How many properties I have total? So many properties, right? So when you have more properties like this, your code goes like too long. And also, if I wanted to create a constructor, how many properties I have here? So many properties, almost 10 properties. And if I keep adding more details, okay, go to source, generate constructor, okay, see here, the constructor is too big or not? Constructor is going to become too big. And here, more properties, when I say more properties, there could be some other properties of person, right? The properties may go like again further 10 more properties or 20 more properties. So altogether, it's going to be a big list of characteristics. In such cases, why can't you separate these as the small entities and then associate it all together, so that like we can simplify the code and we can manage the code in a better way. We can manage the code in a better way. We can manage the code in a better way. Okay, so that is one reason, and the other important reason is, okay, the other important reason is the address. The address is a very generic component. Okay, the address is very generic component. Okay, the address is a generic component, meaning that, what does it mean when I say generic component? Let me do control Z. Okay, so when I say the generic component, what does it mean? It means that a person has address, the person has address, okay, student has address, okay, uh, okay, employee has address, right? So address, everybody has address, right? Yes, sir. So that is where, so why don't we reuse the same component again and again? Instead of writing these many properties here in person class, and the same properties, I go to employee and I will define employee address because I have employee class. So I had to define all these many properties here also. I had to manage all these. Here's I had to write setters getters for this, and even in person class also I have to write setter getters, right? And I have a student here. So student has this address or not? So I have to define all this stuff here. And if you go to trainer, trainer is also has address or not? Trainer is also has address, of course. So when you are developing a application for a college, so college has admin people, college has trainers, college has students, and many things, right? And everybody has address. So and all these are like separate entities. Trainer is separate entity, okay. Student is a separate entity, okay. So admin is separate entity, and everybody has address. So instead of defining the same properties in those many places, in those many classes, what I'm doing is I'm simply defining a separate class called address class, and I will use this address class across all the places. I'll declare, okay, address class, and I will use that across the classes. Okay, so this is what my address class. Okay, so this is what my address class, and I can use this address class in person. In my person, so here is my person class. So instead of defining these many things and the setters getters for that, constructors, everything, so I'll just use address here. This is most important thing you have to understand. So address now, so I have defined address class separately, right? You can define the constructor of address and all the stuff here. You can generate the constructors here. This is specific to address. This is specific to address. Okay, this is specific to address, and you can define setter getters. Okay, I'm generating setter getters. Okay, this is separate component. This is separate entity. So that separate entity, I'm just okay, writing it separately, and I'm going to associate this entity to my person. So person and address. This so person has other number, person has a name, person has a name, is person has address. Right. How do I define the constructor for person then? So here I'm going to generate my constructor. Okay. Source generate constructor using fields. Now you can see address is a single field for me now. It's not going to show me all other fields of things. So here simple other number name is and address is a single attribute here. Okay, while creating person class object, you have to create address class object and you have to pass that reference to the person class constructor so that it will a person has address also. Getting it? Are you guys clear so far? Any confusion till now? This is most important. This is most important. If you go to any programming language, has a relationship. How are we going to relate two classes? How are we going to relate to classes? This is most important. Okay, so now person with the what? Person with this particular properties. Now I have a person class. Let me write main class. Okay, so if you want to create person email and policies also, you can define it here, and as those are optional, those are not compulsory. Okay, so you can define them. Okay, I'll come back to that. Let me not confuse you guys. Just go with one component now. Let me define a main class. Okay, let me not disturb this class. Okay, I'm just separating all the classes separately. Okay, instead of keeping everything, I'm just moving out all the things separately. This is what person email. Okay, this also can be reusable. Like instead of naming it a person email, just naming as just email. Okay, email component, something like this. Okay, what you can do is whatever you have here. Okay, so I'm just moving this to here, email component. Okay, because person has email, employee has email, student has email, that's again a reusable component. Even insurance policy is also reusable. So person has a policy. Okay, person has a, okay, student might be having policy, employee might be having policy. It's all dependence. Okay, so now this code is clean, right? Now I have only person class here. Okay, let me remove the package also. The package name is something like training arrays. No, let me take is something like has a relation, something like this. Okay, I'm just moving this class to this particular package. I'm just okay, I'm just okay, moving this class to another package. Right, so here I have address and person. All right, why is still error? Semicolon is there. Yes, what is the issue? Okay, I have another. I did not remove this. Fine, so address class I have address class. Okay, address class have just properties of address and setters and getters constructor. Now if you look at person has, okay, person properties and also person address. Is that clear? Now I'll write the main class. Okay, I will write the main class. So test has a relationship. Okay, as a relation. Okay, so this should have main method. because I'm going to execute this one. So now I wanted to create a person object. Okay, person object. So person p is equal, okay, new person. So constructor I can use, right? So if you look at this person constructor, I have to pass some other number. It's a single value. Person other number is a single value. So I can pass directly. Yes or no? 52513236 something, some other number. Okay, this is a long value. Now person name. Okay, person is, okay. So address. If you look at the address single value or multiple? Address, if you look at, it's not a single value, right? So you cannot keep city or state something like this here. What you have to do is, before you create person constructor, you have to create address component. You have to create address component where you are going to use constructor of address, where you give all the details, building name. Okay, so building here, building name, flat number. Okay, so 701 landmark. Okay, landmark here. Okay, some, say some circle. Okay, some inquiry circle. Okay, so area, say something like Nagar. Okay, some area address I'm giving. City, say Hyderabad. I'm giving all the details of my address here. Okay, state, Telangana. Okay, uh, okay, so just I'm giving the state code, then country name. Okay, and pin code I'm giving, right? So if I do some numbers, this is what my address component. Okay, so why the error is pin is integer or what? Pin code is string. Okay, right. So pin code property I have taken as a string. Depends. It should be long or integer. Depends on that. You can choose the data type. That doesn't. So now your address object is ready here. Okay, and that address you have to pass to person class. That's all you have to do. That's all you have to do. So is this clear for you or not? Tell me. This is important. First, if you want to create a person object, you have to create address object, because person object is dependent on the address. That's compulsory, right? So that is what okay, composition. Person requires address. Person requires address. Person requires address. Is it clear or not? Okay. Now, so if I have any properties in person class, of course I can now access the things and I can print the person details. Okay, but now I am just doing my person class. I'm just writing toString method. Okay, so instead of calling super dot thing, what I'll do is I'll just print all my person information. Okay, see how my toString method, just a display purpose. Okay, nothing else. Okay, so I can generate this also. Go to source, generate toString method using these properties. Okay, using these properties. So just see that. Okay, so toString method is one important method. Instead of printing the address, it is going to print the details. If you override this toString method to print a other number and okay, the other stuff. Is it clear or not? Okay, go back to the test class and print the person. Just I'm printing what p. P means what? When I say p, in general, if I don't override toString method, it will print the address of the object. But here what I'm doing is I'm just print. I have just overridden the toString method where I wanted to print the values. I wanted to print the values instead of the address. If you look at here, person other number is printing, name is printing, age is printing, but address, if you look at, address is printing the address of the address object or not, reference of the address object or not. This is what at the rate. This is what default toString method implementation. I don't want that for address also, so go to address and override that method. So here just override source, generate what toString method with the properties. Okay, that's what you can now go back here and execute this. You'll see, okay, run as Java application. Now you can see the all details, address details, also building num, flat number, everything. Can you see the difference? Any confusions around this? Please let me know. Any confusions? Perfect. Okay, perfect. Okay, so no doubts. So cool. This is what all about has a relationship. When you are working with applications, okay, we do see these kind of associations more, like without in any application that you are working uh, without this kind of programming style, you don't see any code. Even if it is a small project also, you should see this kind of coding style. Okay, one entity has another entities, so classes, basically when I say entities, classes. Now this address component can be included in trainer also. Okay, so trainer name, other stuff. Okay, you can have string trainer name. Okay, so what institution he is working for. Okay, so institute working for. Okay, so we just take something like this, all other properties, more properties of trainer. And also now I wanted to give what address, because every trainer has address. I can use that address component here. Okay, address component here. I need to import that anyhow. Address is defined in different package, but I don't want to go with this package. Let me go with the same package name here. So take this package name, go back to trainer. Instead of arrays, just I wanted to take this package. Move the class to this package. So Eclipse helps in that. Move trainer to this particular package. That's done. Right, now trainer is also address. Person has address. So then student, of course, student has also address. Yes or no? Student has also address. Okay, so let me move this to this guy. Now person has address, student has address, trainer has address. Okay, are we reusing or not? So this whole piece of code, whatever I have here, 100 lines of code, this 100 lines of code I don't have to write inside a person, I don't have to write inside a trainer, I don't have to write inside a student. I can reuse it. So what is the main advantage of this kind of association is reusability. Okay, the primary goal of this is reusability. You can reuse it. You see, as a relationship, we can reuse it. Code reusability. Okay guys, that's all for today. We can continue tomorrow, where we'll discuss easier relationship. Okay, continuing to this easier relationship, by linking with this I can explain easier relationship. There you will understand the complete flow cycle of easier and has a relationship.